Hey soldiers, stagflation. That's a word I want you to commit to memory. If you thought inflation was bad, stagflation is worse. Now, assume the crash position because the Fed is going to bring this economy in for a very rough landing. I'm talking no landing gear extended. I'm talking clipping telephone poles on the way in. At 30,000 feet, you were dropping, praying to Jesus. Nothing happened. You were still diving. So at 20,000, you started praying to Allah. Oh my God, at 15,000, it became ball and idol statues. Anybody help us? That's the kind of landing we're coming in for in this economy, especially considering the way the data, a lot of it is being misinterpreted. And you might say, well, the Fed is supposed to be this uber intelligent group of people, and they are. But they're not. They're obviously not above misinterpreting data. Now, what else is going on? Because this is a global problem. We've got China out there experiencing the Chinese people, bank depositors, storming banks, saying, I want my damn money. Okay? There are bank runs in China. Sri Lanka is just, they have fallen. The Sri Lankan prime minister almost became prime rib. The president escaped with his life. Did you see the throng? Thousands of people out there. Can you imagine if 20,000 people want your head? Okay. Now, luckily, the prime minister of Sri Lanka the president rather, was able to get to a boat. But if those people were after me, I would have jumped in that water and I would have started swimming for my life. Because these people are upset, man. They can't afford food. They can't afford energy. And this is the culmination of global economic crisis, especially for these smaller economies. Now, in the midst of all that, you've got Joe Biden's administration. His economic advisors, most of them have no business experience. They're all theory. They don't know what the hell's going on. They've never made a payroll. But they're running what is essentially a multi-trillion-dollar corporation, the United States government. Meanwhile, the policymakers and most of the media are all like,
move on! Nothing to see here! Please disperse! Nothing to see here, please!
all right, let's jump right into it. What is stagflation? Stagflation is an economic environment wherein you have high inflation, high unemployment, and low economic output. Now, we have all three ingredients bubbling up in this pot right now. We did a video a couple of days ago on unemployment. I'm going to put it up here. You need to watch that. You need to understand what these numbers are and what is not being reported, okay? Now, let me just pause here. You need to understand this because if you don't, you are in danger of making economic decisions based on bad information or a lack of all of the information. Maybe now is not the time to go out and buy a car, which new cars on average cost $712 per month. Can you believe that? Maybe now is the time to start aggressively paying down that high interest vehicle and credit card debt. Okay. But if you listen to the news media, if you listen to these politicians stand up behind a podium who are only concerned with their next election, they're not concerned with you. If you listen to that, you may be bamboozled into making decisions that are not well founded, certainly not founded on all of the information. So, like I was saying, we've already got high inflation. Those numbers were reported yesterday, 9.1%, the highest in 40 years. We got high inflation, not high inflation, I already talked about high inflation. We got high inflation, we got low economic output. Now, how is economic output measured in this country? Gross domestic product, GDP. We had one quarter, the first quarter of 2022, where we had negative GDP. The economy didn't just slow, it damn near came to a stop. Negative GDP for January, February, and March. Now, 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP equals a recession. The Atlanta Fed came out, we did a video on that about a week ago. And they forecasted negative 2% growth. Actually, it was a little lower, but negative 2% at least growth for the second quarter of 2022. We'd be in a recession if they are half right, okay? So we've got low economic output, we've got high inflation, and here's the thing about employment. They came and they reported these numbers and they said, oh, we're at 3.8% unemployment. And everybody got all excited. We did the video and we showed you how they're looking at one particular measure that equals the lowest measure. It's very advantageous for you as a politician to report that number because it is low. But if you look at the broadest measure of inflation, that includes unemployment, that includes more categories, then that's at 7%. And get this, last week, 244,000 Americans applied for unemployment for the first time, okay? So that number, and this is the most it's been, that's the highest that weekly jobless claim has been since November of 2021, all right? So we're seeing unemployment go back up. So we've got all three ingredients in that cauldron. And then another thing, a little spice we're throwing in there is the increasing interest rates. Now, if you've got a situation where GDP is lacking, where jobless claims are rising, inflation is going up, and interest rates are going up, then what do you need to do? Well, let's go back to it. You need to, right now, start putting some money away if you haven't already. You're a soldier of finance, but there may be new people here. So I know the soldiers of finance are doing that. But if you haven't started, start aggressively putting money away. You need an emergency savings vehicle, okay? And the reason you need that is because let's suppose you get laid off. Layoffs are starting to rear their ugly head. We've got all of the tech companies looking at layoffs. Netflix is going to report its numbers. And I think those numbers, as far as subscribers, are going to be abysmal, okay? You've got Facebook, or they call themselves Meta. You've got Twitter's doing some layoffs. Elon Musk said Tesla's doing some layoffs. You've got layoffs in the real estate sector with Redfin and Compass Realty and others, okay? So we're starting to see, as that economic activity declines, layoffs are going up. So if you're in a situation where you are laid off, you do not want the music, and that music being your ability to go to the grocery store and buy food or pay your rent or mortgage. You do not want the music to stop. You literally cannot afford that. So if you haven't already, it's Friday. Whatever you're going to do with that money, put some away for yourself. Pay yourself. You work for it. Pay yourself. Put some money away. Then if you're in a situation where you've already got 3 to 6 months worth of bills put away, that money put away, then what you need to do is you need to start aggressively paying down high interest debt. So you need to call your vehicle finance company and ask them, are there any prepayment penalties for paying off that loan quickly or paying principal on that loan? If they say no, start attacking that, okay? You want to be in a position where if you have surplus money, you can devote that to the purchase of assets, all right? Because assets right now are inexpensive, relatively speaking. All this financial economic turmoil we have has dropped the markets by and large. And that gives you an opportunity to exercise the buy low, sell high strategy. So we're going to see real estate prices drop. Stocks have already dropped. Keep in mind, real estate is not a national market. It's hyper local. So you may realize prices higher in one area of your town than in others. So we're going to see all kinds of things like that occur. And you've got to be ready to pounce on those opportunities because this is not going to last forever, this situation. These economic cycles are just that. They're cyclical. And they're down and they're up. They're down and they're up. Purchasing while it's down and then being able to ride it up and have those assets available to you now that they've appreciated, that is the catbird seat where you want to be. So we talked about 244,000 Americans filing for unemployment benefits last week. China urges the world to disregard protesters storming banks for cash. China's state-run Global Times claimed on Tuesday that the Western media was unnecessarily hyping protests by roughly 1,000 people in a province of China on Sunday, in which the participants demanded several rural banks release millions of dollars of deposits after unceremoniously freezing them in April, ignoring the fact that Chinese security personnel physically abused and injured several demonstrators during the rally. What's that mean for you? I tell you, you've got to watch these banks, because when you put money in a bank, it becomes a liability for them. It's their liability simply because they owe you that money on demand. I think I told you about a situation that I had a while back where I went to withdraw some money from the bank, and they had me in there like I was almost as long as if I was taking a loan from them. Okay, it was my money, but they made a big deal out of it. As I said, Sri Lanka is in total chaos. The presidents fled. They plunged into chaos because of the economic situation over there. President's location is unclear right now. Nobody knows where he is. But he got the hell out of Sri Lanka because the economy collapsed. They're a small economy, so you know how it works. They get hit first. I want to close this out with an article entitled "Ship of Fools." Believe it or not, 62% of Biden officials who handle economic policy have 0 years business experience. This is amazing. Or maybe not.
Now check this out, man. I'm working here about 9 days. You know, I've been on time most of the time, even when it rained. Don't you think it's about time we talk promotion?
All right, so the executive summary of this report, I'll link to it. The authors detail some key findings. First and foremost, 62% of Biden's top political appointees and staffers who deal directly with economic policy, regulation, commerce, energy, and finance have virtually no business experience. What's more, only 1 out of 8 Biden officials has what the authors deem extensive business experience, and the average level of business experience across the Biden administration is about 2.4 years. The median years of business experience among Biden's top appointees is 0. Since so few have had experience in the private sector, and the vast majority of the Biden Economic Commerce team members are professional politicians, lawyers, community organizers, lobbyists, and government officials. And look, Biden doesn't have any economic experience. He hasn't worked a job in 60 years. The man's been a politician for almost my entire life. He doesn't know what it takes to get a payroll signed. Speaking of that, let me leave you guys with this. Another contingency you really, and I'm going to keep harping on this, you want to create multiple streams of income. That way, if the boss, the supervisor walks down the aisle and says, "Hey, Cletus, listen, it's been great, man. You've really done a lot, but we're going to need to go ahead and lay you off." And Milo here, my 6'7" security guard, is going to supervise you as you pack up your stuff in this little box here. We're going to give you a cardboard box. You pack all your stuff up. I'm going to need your badge, and Milo's going to escort you outside. Hey, nope, nothing personal, and it isn't anything personal. It's needs of the business. So you need to be able to say, you know what, I'm good because I have at least another stream of income. You need to create a business, or you need to take that business that you have, that entity that you have, and build it up stronger so that at some point it can replace the income that you currently may be making with a job. And guess what? The less money you make at a job, the better position you're in, because that means you don't need to replace as much money. Okay, so if you're out there making $50,000, you're going to make that quicker than the young lady who's out there making $150,000. She's got to replace a lot more. All right, guys, so stagflation, we'll continue to cover it. We'll continue to watch and see if it manifests, but all the ingredients are there. Pay down debt. Establish another stream of income. I'll talk to you soon.